All right, boys, we are live. This is episode 45 of the Deconstruction Podcast, brought to you by Jobtable, the simplest way to grow and manage your construction business. As always, here I'm going to kick it off with not a review. This was an actual email I got last night from one of our clients. So this is what it says. That was one of the items I bitched about most about, and you blew my effing mind on that meeting. Jobtable is now running my whole company and is going to save me even more time. Boom. Okay, chat soon. So this was just for some context. This was did a webinar last night with an association, and a client was on it, and he discovered a few features that he just wasn't aware about, and so he sent me this note after the webinar, just like really excited. So yeah, didn't want to share who the client was, obviously, but thank you for that. Really appreciate
Shout out to our client.
it. Yeah.
Amazing.
All right. So we've got a special guest joining us today. He's back for round two. You might remember him from one of our most popular episodes several months back. He brings some serious innovation into the trades world, which is much needed. Matteo Nunziata, founder of UBILD, the platform that's changing how contractors find and hire skilled workers. Last time, we went deep into the skilled labor crisis, AI, the future of craftsmanship. This time, we want to take it even further. What's changed since then, where the industry's heading next, and what UBILD is doing to help the trades even further. So let's get into it. Matteo, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me back again.
Welcome back.
Nice to see you.
Anytime.
Glad to have you back.
Awesome.
I feel like I feel like this is something that has to be on the regular.
Let's get it in the books. Let's schedule one every quarter. I'm happy to be, whenever you guys need to fill in a gap, I'm happy to join.
Nah, you're not a filler.
Yeah, you're definitely not a filler.
You're not a
I'm
filler,
not-
I promise
I'm
you
not
that.
the sixth man.
No. You're the main attraction, buddy.
Oh, sweet. I'll be the ringer. Let me know when you need. Tap me in when you need.
Yeah, when you can just jump in short notice without any talking points, those are the best episodes to have.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you.
If I was organized enough to have talking points, that would be a good thing. I'll just riff off the top of my head.
Fair enough. So I know you've been on the show before, but for those who might not know you or UBILD, just quickly introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Matteo. As you know, I'm the founder and CEO of UBILD. UBILD's an AI-powered platform for the construction industry. We help construction companies hire and pay their workforce. So UBILD makes it super easy to hire anyone from general laborers, skilled trades, site supers, PMs, you name it, on both temporary and full-time basis. So we've been at it for a bit now, and we've made some major strides, and just been an honor to be working with companies that are building our world and building tools like you guys are doing at Jobtable for the people who build the world. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun to do, and excited to dive into it with you guys.
Amazing. So how long have you been working on UBILD? How old's the company?
So it's funny because we named it Jobber Pro at first, and we were basically doing we built a marketplace to connect builders with materials, equipment suppliers, labor. We were kind of doing everything. That was probably 5 years ago, but UBILD as it is now is probably 3 years old, 2 to 3 years old.
Okay.
And our latest iteration is about a year old. So it's this long stream, but it feels like it's changing and evolving so often that it feels brand new. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys feel that at Jobtable. It always feels like day one.
Yeah, you're constantly innovating, shifting gears onto what's actually working for your end users, essentially, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Especially when you're, because you incorporate a lot of AI and the technology side, and that's just ever changing by the day. And, I can see you pivoting. I know, so we briefly touched on it off air. Has there been any changes to UBILD in terms of what you guys are offering or what you're doing?
Yeah, so So what originally started as a temporary staffing marketplace, companies to hire general labor for a day or two here and there, it evolved further into a platform to help, more so a service to help builders hire full-time people. So we started working with, higher skilled trades, PMs, site supers, helping companies hire for those roles. And in the process of building out this full-time hiring component, we learned something super interesting, was that the industry is actually more skilled than I originally thought. I know last time we were talking about the skilled labor shortage, but I have a new thesis on this, which we'll dive into. But basically what we've evolved now is our new product is a software tool that helps construction hiring teams interview, vet, and assess applicants coming through their pipeline. So we built an AI that does exactly that, interviews and assesses tradespeople to get an idea of what they can do before they get on site.
Okay,
Amazing.
The idea is to reduce the time to hire. So, take hundreds of applicants and whittle it down to the top 3 or 5, and then also improving the quality of the hire.
So before that, though, you were just making the connection between the candidate and the employer, but now you've incorporated like the hiring and the assessment part, or?
Yeah, so now exactly. Now you can use UBILD as a tool to basically screen all of your candidates.
Okay.
Can you remind me, is there a human connection with you and the candidate, and like how does it start? Like what's the start to finish process?
So there's a couple ways you can use UBILD. You can use UBILD as a service, in which case we do that human layer where we have the AI assessments, but then we do a human interview as well. But then you can use UBILD as a tool, in which case the hiring manager at whatever company would be that human layer after the AI assessment.
Okay. I'm just curious because how do you take a list of candidates and curate it down to, a feasible list of like maybe 3 to 5 people of the right candidates that you want to kind of finalize? Like, how do you get to that point? Where do you look at it? Is it just work experience? Is there a human aspect where you call these 5 and it's kind of like the better feeling that you have for each one? Like, what's the thought process behind that?
Yeah, so when with UBILD, when you're applying to a job, you have to upload your resume and create a profile. So that'll then parse all of your work experience, and you add all of your skills, tools, certifications, etc. And then UBILD from there, our algorithm will, based on the job description, it'll create a match score between your experience and the job requirements. And then it'll conduct a 2-way voice AI interview that will ask you questions about, technical questions about your experience and based on the job requirements to kind of get an idea of how much you really know. And then it'll shortlist those candidates for the employer.
That's amazing. It'll save a lot of time, especially when you got, like you said, hundreds of applicants.
Yeah, exactly. So we found that the software product, this AI interviewer, is best used by high volume hiring teams. So people that are constantly hiring, that have like hundreds of applicants for every role, that's where it really comes in pretty clutch. Smaller builders, it still works, but it's, typically smaller builders are hiring based on word of mouth, or they don't have as big of an applicant list.
And I can see the smaller builders wanting that human to human contact, where if you create a list down to 5, they're going to want to kind of sit down with each individual one to really get a good feel for them and then make their final decision rather than just pick off a list and hire, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so when you say like AI driven like interviewing, so is the applicant literally like going on like a Zoom and like speaking to an AI?
So it's a voice call through the web. So it's a web call and it's 2-way voice. It feels like you're having a conversation with a person. It's asking you questions about your experience, then it slowly gets more technical. So if you're BSing on your resume, the AI assessment will be able to figure that out pretty quickly.
So it'll
Does the
ask you
applicant?
specific questions about electrical work, about panels or whatever job you're applying for. It will actually go into specifics about that part of the job.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So it'll ask you
That's pretty
something
cool.
like, let's say you're trying to hire a carpenter. It'll ask the applicant like, okay, like you can, if you know how to frame a bulkhead, like walk me through the process. Here are the dimensions of the project. You know, here's the main scope. How would you go about this start to finish? And so then they'd have to walk through their procedure. And so it can weed out the good from the bad pretty evidently. And then it's not to say that it's supposed to replace that human interview. It's just supposed to like thin the herd, you
Yeah.
know? So the people that clearly don't know what they're talking about are just you're not gonna waste your time interviewing them or bring them on your site.
Yeah,
I like it.
100%. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
And just like on a side note, like something like that, obviously, like I know you said you guys started about 5 years ago, but as this technology like ever progresses and ever evolves, um, something like that, like how long has that been in development for, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, that's like 3 months, 4 months.
Wow.
And yeah, because this technology just didn't exist before, right? And it just keeps on getting better and more realistic and smarter, and that's when that's when we really started to realize how scalable this was and how big of an impact this could have. Once we started to see it work, and I've actually so something that I've learned while running. So we've been running like I don't know how many thousands of these interviews now. I used to think that the biggest problem in construction was the skilled labor shortage, right? The last call that we had, I was very like bullish on that. I was like, this is a crisis. And yes, it is a problem, but the bigger problem is that we don't actually know what skills the existing workforce has. There's no system of record to show who can do what. And we all know that resumes in construction don't tell you much at all. And so what we're learning is that the workforce is much more skilled than we're giving them credit for. And so what we really have is yes, there's a skilled labor shortage, but we actually have a labor utilization problem. We're not matching the right people with the right jobs at the right time. So we're underutilizing the workforce we have. So that's what I realized. Like this is the first problem that we need to solve as an industry, is getting the right people working and using their full skill set on a
And their
job.
potential. Yeah, and their potential. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I'm like, this was a major, like, I was shocked when I started to hear, because I would look at their resumes and their profiles. I was like, okay, this person's like a general laborer at best. And then you do an interview with them and you're like, oh my God, this guy's like a 10-year mason. He could, like, he's super skilled, but he doesn't have anything on his profile or resume about that. And no one would ever know how skilled this person was unless they interviewed him. But the problem is that, you can't interview that many people when you're sourcing candidates.
How long are
what's
these
funny?
how long are these AI generated conversations? How long do they go on for? Do they vary from person to person?
So they vary based on the job requirements, but I'd say somewhere between like 7 and 15 minutes.
I was going to say though, back to how your thesis has changed. It's funny you say that, because in the last few episodes we've had, our thesis has changed as well. Like we're kind of coming to the conclusion on our side too. Like I don't think there is a labor skilled shortage at all. Just like from people we speak to every single day on the ground that are hiring, like Charlie can probably speak on it himself, but like the reality on the ground doesn't correlate to like what you're seeing on the headlines in the news. So for me, is it just like a convenient scapegoat for like in the economy and like the headlines and the news to kind of pinpoint on this economic crisis, on this like apparent labor shortage, you know? So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, we had a common friend of ours, Matteo Manny, on our pod, and we were talking about this exact same thing, and that's where like the whole kind of mindset started shifting, where everybody's talking about, like Kosta said, a lot of these headlines and governments are talking about a labor shortage, But the reality is that, you know, I feel like there's a work shortage, right? A lot of these projects, you know, like the economies are not doing well. And you know, me and Charlie, we get applicants all the time, and we're starting to notice, like, you know, very highly skilled applicants coming from, you know, union companies, which a lot of times you don't see union guys going for non-union work. And it's just kind of, you know, it's kind of painting the real picture as opposed to everything we thought, right? Like, it's unfortunate we all buy into the headlines, you know, and look, like getting back to our previous conversations, I do believe some skill sets are like I would say there are dying trades, right? Like what we talked about before, like the masons, the people that can really like sculpt something with their hands, you know what I mean? And the type of architecture that we see. But a lot of what I'm seeing is that, you know, they're using it as a scapegoat, saying that there isn't, you know, there isn't enough skilled trades. But at the same time, it's like, no, there's not enough incentives or enough projects out there to allow companies to hire more people, right? And I think that once, you know, we weed through the bullshit, right, something like UBILD would be utilized a lot more. So I feel like these headlines that are kind of, you know, not telling the right narrative is also, you know, kind of suppressing a product like yours, where this should be in the hands of a lot of, like, you know, the people in the industry. Because if the projects were there, they would have to hire more, which then in turn would be, okay, you know, it's going to take a long time to weed through all these resumes, right? And then that's where UBILD would come in, right? So you know, something like that, if you know, I was on your end, I'd be kind of like, wait a minute, why is this narrative being spun like this, right? Because it essentially it's kind of I would say suppressing like what UBILD could actually provide to a lot more people, right?
You know,
Yeah.
Matteo, I was going to say quickly, something that you brought up that it just kind of resonates with me is the fact, like this AI interview where you're just really trying to gather as much information as you can from a candidate, like how the importance of that. I think I don't want to gloss over it, just because I think a big issue is too, you know, when I'm hiring somebody, you know, there's questions I'm going to ask this person, and mainly it's skill based, right? Like, what have you done? What projects, you know, are you going to be able to kind of correlate that skill set with the jobs that, you know, that I'm offering you? But something happened to me personally yesterday where it kind of like opened my eyes, and it just reminded me of that. I was on site, and it's pretty rare that I do layout now with the guys, but they needed a hand, so I started doing it. And it was my foreman and 2 apprentices. And after doing layout, I kept calling the apprentices over, and I was teaching them how to do certain things, like how to do a 45-degree angle when you're marking out trenches, just little things. And after a couple of hours, the apprentices came up to me, and they're like, "Oh, Charlie, you know, like I wish you could be on site more often." And I looked at them, I'm like, "Why?" And like, "Oh, because, you know, our foreman, you know, or the guy, they don't teach us this stuff." And I look at the foreman, I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, these guys, how come they don't know how to do this?" And I realized in that moment that I might have the best foreman or the best plumber in the world, but his skill set may be limited to actual plumbing, and he's not able to teach that. You know, he's not a good teacher. And that you can have many examples of that. You could have a great teacher, but somebody that lacks in the skill. So the fact that you're really trying to pry into that person and squeeze out as much information as you can before you hire them is so crucial and important, because it's just going to save you that time later on when, you know, you realize I hired the wrong guy. And and I'm sure with time, your AI is just going to keep getting better and better and better. And you're going to, you know, you're probably going to go into like the psychology aspect of it, where you're going to start asking different questions that don't relate to the actual job, just to kind of pick up on things like, is this guy does he work well with others? You know, is he a hothead? Is he going to snap and throw a hammer at one of the guys? You know, and I'm sure that's going to evolve. So like, what are your thoughts on that of like the evolvement? Because you told us UBILD just keeps evolving and evolving, right? Like month by month. So where do you see that going?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point you raise. Like, I'll touch on, there's kind of 2 points there. The first one is, you know, you're looking for somebody that can teach apprentices on site. That you can make that one of the job requirements. And so what that's going to do is when it's conducting the interview, it will be straight up and ask the person. It'll be like, hey, one of the job requirements is that you have to teach apprentices on site. Like, how open are you to to teaching others, dead straight onto the question, and you can hear the response from the person. And so you can really vet that way, is like you can, get super granular, so you can find the best people that you would want to hire. And then on the second point, where we can go with it, we actually built out the personality assessment kind of side, so you can see who would fit. We haven't figured out how to roll it out in how do I put it? I don't know, without it being too weird. Where people feel like they're being like psychoanalyzed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So right
it
now
has
it's
to
very
be subtle.
Yeah. So right now it's very technical interview, and it can pick up on certain nuances based on the answers. Yeah, anything's possible, right? And the idea is, we want to help you find the right person for your company. Might be, maybe another company doesn't care if they're going to teach apprentices or not, and they just want someone who can show up and bang the job out. And that's where we're like, because we think at UBILD, if we can help companies build strong teams, then everybody wins, right? You can build a meaningful company, that person can have a good time working, and it's just an overall good experience. You spend so much of your life working on site, being with good people that you align with on professionally and from a values standpoint is super important.
And also the amount of time that you're saving, right? Like I know when me and Johny are hiring, in order to find one or two good guys that are worth keeping for the long haul, we probably go through 30 to 50 guys, right?
Yeah. So and you think of the cost of that.
It's huge. It's huge.
Time, yeah.
It's huge.
So
actually,
narrow it down to 10,
Yeah, and actually, I wanted to ask you too, like to touch on a point that Charlie kind of asked as well. One of the big things I would say in construction, I'll speak from a plumber, owning a plumbing company, and and obviously, my whole life being on site. How far is UBILD, would you say, from like the psychological aspect? Because I would say that's a huge component to hiring, because again, we've been through a lot of plumbers, right? Like, this we're going on our 16th year of business, and we've had guys that, again, man, from a skill set to what they can do on site, like, I would score them 12 out of 10. But the problem is it's the psychological aspect, right? It's that could be detrimental to a company. It doesn't, like, we've fired some of the best plumbers we've ever had, and it's strictly because their attitude, like Charlie said, they can flip on a dime, could actually cost the company a lot of money as well, right? So like how far would you say UBILD is in that hiring process, and in that like, let's say that phone call or whatever? And I know it might, like you said, it might seem a little bit weird right now, like they're going through like a psych evaluation, but at the same time, the reality is companies need to protect themselves, right? And you could score a 10 out of 10 on everything, but if the psych scores a 1 out of 10, then it could hinder the score, right? Like essentially. So how far would you say that like piece of the puzzle in your software is from adding like that little bit of the psych evaluation to it?
Yeah, so technically it's there already, right? If you add it into the job requirements, like if it's in the job description, it's gonna interview them on it. So you'll be able to see, and maybe can I share my screen here? I can actually show you guys what it looks like.
Yeah, please.
Helpful. Okay, so you can see the screen. Okay, so this is a job for a rough carpenter. And so you can see basically the job's been created. So you can see the job details, the requirements, responsibilities, etc. And then what this pipeline will do is it uses our algorithm. It'll create a match score based on the worker's profile and that job. And then it'll conduct the interview. So you can see, like, if you want to, like, you can see that worker's profile. You can see all of their certifications, tools, skills, etc. And then you can actually listen to the interview. So what it'll do is it'll do an assessment, right? And it'll ask all of the relevant questions. And it won't give it a score like 1 out of 10. it'll basically just show you like areas of concern and their strengths. So then you can make that analysis yourself, but it'll actually, like, you can actually read the transcript here as well. And so it's asking questions. Whatever's in this job description, you could put in here requirements, must be a team player, or like, you can add in the questions yourself when you're creating the interview. Like, hey, ask the candidate how they would react if a site supervisor wasn't organized and didn't have the materials on site. What would be the next step? And like, you can listen to somebody's response. So to answer your question, it's already there. It's just how you prompt the interviewer.
Do you think it's possible to eventually get it to a point where it can actually detect if it thinks someone is lying, not being fully honest? Because like, obviously you don't want to make them feel like they're going through a psych evaluation. But if you can have this kind of, an AI that can pick up on certain things without them knowing, just in casual conversation, that'd be pretty cool too, right? Where it's like, this person doesn't seem like they're trustworthy or whatnot.
Yeah. So actually, what we've been developing. Oh wait, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
What we've been developing is exactly that, like detecting nuance in their voice, detecting, different, how the tone of voice changes, and like, are they lying? Are they being truthful? Are they excited? Are they surprised? Like, all of these things are possible, and we're building them out. So what you'll be able to do as we're almost there, but when you're looking at the candidates, you'll be able to see their interview assessment, and you'll be able to see all these analytics around that.
See, that's something that's very interesting to me, especially when you really get into technical questions. It's one thing to kind of read a manuscript, but it's another to actually listen. And then if there's flags where they say, well, listen to this part, we think he may be lying in this part, and then, that could really help with the hiring process of like, I could listen to him like, yeah, this guy's full of shit.
Well, you can listen to the interview through the interview link.
Yeah, but I'm saying the fact if it picks up on markers and you can flag it, rather than listening to 100 interviews, if there's a guy that you really like, but there may be some flags, you can kind of speed through it, right?
Yeah, that's all. We just keep evolving, and like, we're realizing like this is the direction that we're gonna really invest in. So most of our resources are going into this. So you're gonna see some rapid developments on this side over the next.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing to hear, man.
Really cool. I can see that transcend, like on the trades even.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, we're even seeing I'm starting to talk to like big manufacturing plants,
Yeah.
And we're realizing like we're trying to become like the AI recruiter for the blue collar trades, like beyond just construction, manufacturing and other sectors like that.
Why did you choose to kind of go into the construction sector? Like, did you ever think about kind of like evolving into like lawyers and just kind of white collar?
I mean, I started in the trades, right? That was like where my career started, and I've just always been connected with the built world. I think it's the coolest industry out there, and I think that what we're doing, I say we, but really it's the guys that are doing the work on site. Is like, I have so much respect for the blue collar workforce and the guys that are building the world that we live in, that I think that they deserve, all the innovation and tools that we can give them to make their lives easier and to make things better. So that's just where I feel the most called. Like, I don't really connect with the, other industries. Like, I feel like lawyers have had a good run for a while,
But I'm just saying though, the reason I'm asking that, because I feel like this has the potential to be such a powerful tool. So it's like, if you already have the foundation built and you're able to kind of like leak out to other markets, like, why not? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. I think what we're thinking is like, we want to build like a very niche product that is hyper attuned to construction nuances, right? And we don't want to build like a generic tool. We want to build something like for the trades, because it's obviously different, right? Like hiring for someone to work at a convenience store versus on a job site. Like there are a lot of similarities, but I just think that there's certain things that we can really hone in on. But yeah, I
I'm
mean,
with
over
you.
time,
Like we get
I
that all the
respect
time
that. Yeah.
too, right? It's like, oh, with
Yeah.
Jobtable, it's like, oh, why don't you guys sell? This could be applied to like any industry. Why don't you sell there? But it's like, to me, for me personally, I think it's much more impactful when you can like hone in on a particular niche market and just perfect it. It just makes it easier to like your marketing, your communication to like penetrate rather than like opening it up so broadly.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. We have, I think we have like a limo company using Jobtable. We have a couple of, let's just say different sectors using it.
Randoms, yeah.
Yeah, randoms. But I like what you said there, Matteo. And again, for all of for anybody listening, that's essentially why I think we all connect so well in our community is because, something you kind of stumbled over as you were saying there, and I kind of picked up is that you're right. Every other industry is getting, state of the art tools, the latest technology. And it's kind of like we talk about this all the time, like the blue collar, it's kind of like, you know, you guys stay over there type of deal and, do things the way you guys do. And it's like, no, wait a minute. You know what I mean? Without us, without our trades, there is no building for that lawyer to go in. There's no washroom for that lawyer to, you know what I mean? What about us, right? And I love how you've honed into the blue collar market and specifically because, like you said, it's who you connect with, right? It's when you get on a call and you're talking to them, you feel like you're talking to somebody like you, somebody you can connect with, right? Because I always say that no matter what you're doing in your life, like yes, business is business, and you're always there to make money and try to build a life for yourself. But if you're doing it around people that you just don't connect with at all, like what's the point, right? So again, like tip my cap to you to staying true to who you connect with, right?
Whenever anyone in construction, when you hear the founder of a company say what you just said, it just kind of adds to your credibility and your passion, and it will probably make them want to sign up even more because of those words.
Yeah, and that's it's the truth. It's like I really feel like empowering. You hit it on the head, Johny. Is like there's other industries to make more money, let's say, in an easier way, but construction has been neglected by an innovation for a long time. And I think what you guys are doing at Jobtable, especially, like, I have so much respect for what you guys are doing, because you're empowering small, medium-sized businesses to create leverage and be able to grow. That's if any, like, if I could think of any sector, construction SMBs have probably been the most neglected by technology. Because construction, there's lots of innovation happening at the commercial, industrial level, big, you have your Procores and these big platforms that are solving problems where there's big money. But downstream to smaller companies, residential builders, sub-trades, there's not a lot. Yeah, there's platforms out there, there's people doing things, but I think there's more work to be done in the space that you guys are playing in, and the space that we're playing in as well. And we're starting to move up the chain a little bit. We'll always work with SMBs, but we're realizing that this software product is, it can work for SMBs, but it also is super valuable for those bigger shops.
Yeah, and the reality is if you keep giving the large companies the tools, right? Essentially, what happens to the small and medium-sized businesses, right? Eventually, they want to try to grow to that, right? So the way I always look at things is like me and Charlie, we're very loyal people to our inner circle, right? So it's the same with our suppliers and even from the banks that we deal with and everything like that. We never forget where we came from. So the people that are there to help you from day one as you grow, those are the people that you kind of want to bring along for the ride, right? And I always feel like you just said, like all these big platforms or all this big innovation, it's always geared towards these massive companies that sure, they have a lot more to manage, but nobody's giving the secrets or the tools to these smaller guys that are trying to build and are the next in line to hopefully get up there and compete, right? So again, I love what you said, and like Charlie said as well, the passion behind it, like you can hear it in your voice. So even for us, Charlie, man, like I'd love to, like, I know we said this last time, but I'd love to give UBILD a shot and like really see, like, how we can even implement this. And for anybody listening too, man, like, give it a shot, right? It's something that, again, it's something new. A lot of people might be skeptical to use it, just like when we first launched Jobtable as well. But from everything that you're saying and from what you just put up on the screen, it just seems like, man, like, why wouldn't you want to save yourself time and heartache?
It all comes down to efficiency, right? If you can save yourself a couple hours a week, I'm all in.
Yeah.
Anything.
Exactly. And for you guys and for anyone that's watching this wondering, UBILD offers a free trial that you can test it out, see how you like it, make a few hires through it to see how much time it can save you. So if you want, reach out to me and I can get you that set up.
Amazing. And at the end, sorry to interrupt, but at the end, just so we can keep listeners on the program, at the end, think about it in your mind, okay? As we're speaking, drop like a special code if you can. You know what I mean? If that's something that you do, so we can give it at the end of the show, and then we'll put it all in the footnotes as well.
For sure, I'll give that one at the end. And it's funny, what you made me think about when you were talking about Jobtable and UBILD, kind of empowering SMBs. I know last time we were talking about biblical quotes, but here's another one. It's the story of David and Goliath, right? David was able to take down Goliath with a sling and a rock, and I feel like Jobtable and UBILD are that sling and rock for the little guy to have a fighting chance at growing business.
1,000%, man. 1,000%. Very good analogy. I love that.
And that's what we say all the time. It's like we're literally giving a tool to those small SMBs, but like the same powerful tools that a giant corporation uses, but we're giving that power to the small companies, right? Just to, again, provide that leverage, empower them, make them more efficient in an affordable way. And I think that's the key. That's also missing in at least the industry we're playing in. Most of these companies, they do cater to where the money is, right? And the big companies. So
yeah, that's why I have so much respect for what you guys do, is because you're making it affordable.
Well,
it's like it's unbelievable. Like how much it's a like for someone using Jobtable, it's a no-brainer. It's like, I can't remember how much you guys are charging. Last time I checked, it was like $50 or $100 a month.
Yeah, 59 a month.
59 a month to create that much leverage and save that much time is a fucking no-brainer. Like,
that's why I always say, sorry, Charlie. That's why I always say, like, every time I talk to anybody, I just had a phone call this morning with somebody else, and I say it all the time. It's like, look, man, this is not a sell. Like I'm not a salesman. I'm not here to sell you on anything. If you got to see it, right? It's like once you see it, there's no way you can unsee it, right? I'm not here to try to get $59 a month. Trust me, it's not a make or break, right? This is the reality of it. I don't care if you're one guy in a truck, if you're, one guy with 10 employees, right? And the same with UBILD, right? You're hiring somebody, you got to go through a process. You're running a business, these are the processes in construction that you got to follow, right? And the reality is that they take a lot of time, whether you're hiring or whether, you're doing quotes, you're project managing, whatever. So in the end of it, whether you're going to waste your time or you're going to waste your money, this is not a sell. This is something that you're going to require, whether it's right now or whether you want to procrastinate and leave it to last minute. We're not trying to sell you. We're trying to give you the tools at an early enough stage or at that stage that you need them to empower yourself, right? And if you think it comes down to that money figure, then that's a hurdle that you got to cross, right? And I think it goes into UBILD as well. If you want to sit there and sift through 100, 150 candidates, and try to interview them, and then, you made a bad decision and maybe one of the candidates slipped away and got a job somewhere else, hey, should have listened to me when you had the chance, right? Essentially.
And the amount of people that I speak to that constantly tell me that I don't use a software because it's just too complicated, take the money out of it, right? A lot of people think like, you know what, I'm not used to any technology. I don't want to get involved in it. You need to understand that we've built platforms, whether it's UBILD or Jobtable, that if you're able to scroll through Twitter or Instagram, you can use these platforms. It's 2025. Get your fucking head out of your ass and join the movement, because you're just going to fall behind. It's as simple as that. You know, you got to seriously like stop with this, I can't, and I have these limitations, you know, and again, forget the money, whether it's $60, $150, if we can save you 20 hours a month, 20 hours or 15 hours a week, whatever it is, that pays for itself tenfold, right? And this notion that you're not able to do things, that's only going to set limitations in how you grow your business, how you run your everyday life. You cannot set these limitations on yourself. And we've literally done the legwork to take all of these pains out of the way for you. So you can just log in, invoice, create quotes, whatever you need to do, hire guys. And it's as simple, like I said, as scrolling through Instagram.
Yeah. No, it's such a good point. I think a lot of people in our industry are hesitant to use tools because they just assume that they're complicated and hard to use. But like I've seen Jobtable, how easy it is to use. UBILD, we've made it like you can post a job in a minute and UBILD will do the rest. It'll literally source, screen, interview, and shortlist the candidates for you. It's like the easiest thing. And when people say they don't like to use technology, it's like, okay, but do you like to sift through 200 resumes? Like, what do you like? What do you like less? Logging into an app for a minute, or wasting 5 days of your life? But yeah, it's a good point. That's why it's like being, and that's where I think like the future of construction technology is like, we built the platform out a lot, and people just kept on calling in, right? And I think we talked about this a little bit last time, and we got to the point where we're like, you know what? We don't care if you call in or if you use the app. Call in if you want. And I just hire operations people. I'm like, you know what? If that's easier for you, we get it. You're driving between your job sites. You're in your truck. It's hectic. You're booking all your other services over the phone. Just give us a call. So it's, we made it. Obviously, Jobtable's a little different in what you guys provide, but for UBILD, it's like the technology is not a bottleneck.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I want to quickly go back to what you said earlier, Charlie. I thought that was very interesting. So the whole idea, think about all the skilled plumbers, electricians out there that work for these companies that have decades of experience and who have all the technical skill, but don't know how to teach or share the knowledge. And that is something just clicked to me. I thought that was so interesting because to teach and share knowledge, like this is almost like a skill set that not everyone has, but I think it can be taught and learned. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think, right? Like, there's like apprenticeship programs where you go and you teach, obviously the skill, but like, what if there were programs for like highly skilled people to teach them how to train and how to pass on knowledge? Like, would that be valuable to companies?
I don't know. I think in theory, yes, but I think it's a little more complicated because I think these are naturally obtained. Like, yes, they could be taught, but I think you either have it or you don't when it comes to certain things. I'll give you a quick example. So my right-hand man in the company, he's not a plumber at all. Okay, he's got construction background, but he's actually not a licensed plumber, never cut or installed a piece of pipe in his life. Now, the reason why he became my right-hand man and the guy for that job over any of my plumbers was because he had the skill set in order to do not just to answer questions about plumbing, but he knew how to deal with other project managers, lawyers, owners of buildings. He knows how to write emails. He represented the company very, very well. And to this day, I have some of my top guys that are probably still angry with me that they didn't get that position in the company, right? You would assume that, you work here for a long time. I want to be, Charlie and Johnny's right-hand man. And they were very disappointed to hear that a guy who's not a plumber at all got the position over them. But what they don't seem to understand is that when you're the owner of a company or you're high up in a company and you need to represent that company, it's a lot more than plumbing, right? As Matteo, I'm sure you can attest to this. Like being a company owner, like me and Johny had to know plumbing. We had to be tradesmen, but now to become a businessman, it's a completely different animal, right? You have to hit it from all kinds of different angles. It's not just the actual trade. I look at plumbing as like a stepping stone to becoming a businessman. And once you're a businessman, now it's a whole new ball game. But the point being is that the skills that my right hand man has, they don't compare to the skills that my foreman does on the plumbing site. Like the foreman is great. He can direct, 4, 5, 6, 10 guys on a job site. He knows how to read drawings. He knows how to deal with the people on the site. But then when it comes to cleaning up his act a little bit, cleaning up his language, and kind of going and dealing with the higher ups, the consultants, the architects, that's where they might falter a little bit, and then they don't lack that skill set, right? And to my previous example of the teaching, man, in theory, Kosta, what a great idea, where it's like, here's a class on how you're gonna, teach somebody. But I honestly feel that it's like, it could be a learned skill, but I think most people that I've seen that have the ability to do that, it actually comes down to like being patient, compassionate, and these are not things that I feel can be taught. They either have it or they don't. And I'm going back to examples of people that taught me, like when me and Johny were fortunate to learn from all the old Italians before they all retired, right? So we consider ourselves very lucky. But looking back, we had maybe, let's say 10 old Italian guys that we were working with. Maybe 3 or 4 of them were good teachers and the rest were not. And it wasn't because they weren't able to teach because they didn't have the skill. It's because, like I said,
they don't have the patience.
They don't have the patience, the compassion. They couldn't care less. They want to punch in and punch out. They want to put up their pipe, and who cares about this little kid that wants to learn plumbing? I'm just going to get him to do all my bitch work, right? So that's a great point, Kosta. I mean, if that's something that maybe I'm completely off on this, that it's not, just a human trait.
Think about how powerful that could be, right? If you just have like your skilled guys, like make it like a proactive thing during the day, where every day they're passing on some sort of knowledge, teaching the apprentices. Like after like 12 months, think about how much more productive those other employees could be because of what they're being taught. It's like teachers college. Like you go to teachers college to learn how to teach. Doesn't have to be, maybe it's not like a course. Maybe it's like some other form of traime, but like I feel like
Yeah,
it's such an untapped
but in the
resource.
in the end of it, like I think I could speak on this because me and Charlie, we've talked about this so much, right? When we go through the hiring process, and this is where, Matteo, I think what we talked about for UBILD, I think would be, incredible just to see, and have your platform kind of vet that with the conversation that it has with the applicants. But it's crazy because in the end of it, I've worked with, and I've been taught by a lot of, I want to say some of the best plumbers, that I've ever come across, right?
I didn't teach you that much.
Yeah. Okay. Now the reality is one of the best plumbers I've ever seen. And, me and Charlie go back and forth on this. And again, I don't want to name drop or anything like that, but the reality is that when I was working under him, he was the worst to work for. And the reason why he was the worst to work for, I give everybody an example. And I think anybody in the construction industry that's listening to us will understand this. So, I would get to a section of the job and the guy would literally give me a bag, okay, with the fittings, and the fittings would be like down to like the 90, right? So, and he would give me the pipe and he would be like, okay, this section needs to be done. I want this done by lunchtime. Now, in plumbing, there's 10 different ways you can rough this in. But now this guy expected me to just jump into his head and literally figure out exactly the way he wanted it done, right? Where I'm looking at it and it's like, well, okay, I put up the pipe and I'm looking at it and it's like, man, I need, an extra, 290s and a 45. And he would just come back and be like, no, you don't. And he would walk away. Now, don't get me wrong. You eventually figure it out. But in my head, it's kind of like, what did you teach me? Right? You didn't teach me anything, right? It's like every day you're putting me to a test, but what is it that you taught me? And now, fast forward to today where, we have a great relationship. He works for us, once in a while when we need a big push on a job because he's just a great plumber. But the reality is that, I learn from him? I did. But, like Charlie said, did I learn from other guys a lot more that maybe didn't pose as much skill set as that guy did, but their teachings just surpassed any knowledge that guy could have brought down on me, right? And again, when you're hiring for a job, yes, you want somebody that poses a lot of skill set, but at the same time, there's no I in team, right? It's okay, as much as you're pushing the job, we also have apprentices that you need to teach along the way because, in 4 or 5 years, this guy's got to be you because now, as we evolve and we start getting more jobs and we start, growing our business, now I need to send this guy with a new set of, let's just say, apprentices to this job. And now, 4 or 5 years later, you should be the next guy in line where I can then give you apprentices and you can now, run the job and teach them. But if that guy's not taught properly because of who he worked under, didn't pose that skill set, then, you're going to run into kind of like a block, right? And again, getting back to like what Charlie said in your question there, Kosta, unfortunately, I don't think that could be taught, right? I think you can try to massage the situation as the years go by, but look, me and Charlie run through this all the time where we'll pull guys aside and it's like, no, man, you can't talk to them like that. You got to teach them. You got to understand. How can you get mad at him if you haven't taught him this? And it's like, okay. And then 3 months later, it's the same shit, right? So
I actually think,
Look,
I was going to say quickly, sorry, Kosta, this is where a company like UBILD, this is where you should be utilizing it, where I find it makes a lot more sense to contact Matteo and say, look, I'm looking for this kind of person. I need you to really, specifically break down what I'm looking for rather than any kind of like training to kind of like, hey, you need to be patient, you need to learn how to do this and teach others and this and that, right? Like, I think it makes a lot more sense, especially a guy that's in the trade. It's very unlikely that he's going to go and seek any additional training in order to be a good teacher, right? At the end, and just to add one more thing, to anybody listening, right? And this is what I told those 2 apprentices yesterday when they said, they were kind of joking around like, hey, can you come to the site more? I'd love to have you and teach me things like this all the time. And I was kind of laughing because it's like, I can't, I'm too busy, right? Whenever I can be, I'll be more than happy to, but you have to rely on your foreman. What I said to those 2 guys, those 2 kids yesterday is be a fucking pest, okay? The reason why guys were willing to teach me is because I was a literal pest. I would bother these foremans and these older guys. I would say, why are you doing this? Why are you doing like that? How are you doing this? Can you show me? No, fuck off. Please show me because I don't want you to do it. You're breaking your back. Let me do it for you. But in order for me to do it, you need to show me step by step. And they would get a kick out of it because I was constantly bothering and pestering them, right? If you're shy and you expect a person who may not be the best teacher in the world to kind of drop everything he's doing, you got to remember too, these guys, these foremans in the trades, they got a lot of shit on their plates, man. There's a lot of pressure coming down from the project managers, from the owners to them. So you have to really put yourself in their shoes. You're just looking at it from one way where, oh, this guy's not teaching me anything, he's a fucking asshole. But that's not the case most times, right? A lot of times it's just the fact that they're way too busy. So it's up to you to ask a lot of questions, take notes, bother people, and then they'll give you the time of day because they're gonna see potential in you and they're gonna want to invest the time in order to make their lives easier. Then they will then see the value of spending time teaching you.
that's a great point. Great point.
The one thing to add though, I do think, so like, let's assume like there is like a labor shortage, right? And this is like a real crisis, back to this untapped potential. You have all these like skilled people working at these companies. As with anything else in life, it's all about incentives. Now, what if you create some sort of very simple, measurable output and incentivize people in your company that are skilled to teach them, but it's measurable. If you teach this, we can measure the output, you're incentivized. I think with the right incentives, that's simple enough. you can get a lot of these people that you're talking about to be more proactive and not have the responses of like, oh, fuck off, I'm not teaching you, knowing that there's an incentive.
No, but you know what? Getting back to what Charlie said though, that's actually that, you know, that's something too. Even in a hiring process, doesn't matter, you know, if it is an apprentice, you need to be a pest, because in the end of it, people have to understand it's your apprenticeship. Yes, you work for a company, but in the end of it, these are skills that you want to possess, right? So if you're working under a guy, you know, and that's why it's just resonating with me when Charlie said that, and that's why I said it's a great point. It's like, that's one thing that I'll blame myself on with that foreman. I was actually, just because of his attitude, I was a little bit, you know, just scared of him. Like, I didn't want to get in his way. So I try not to ask as many questions because I just didn't want to interact with him. But the reality is, you got to fucking, it's up to you. You got to go up to him. Why are you doing this?
For sure.
You know, stop asking the question. No, I'm asking these questions because next time I'll do it. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to save you time, right? So in the end of it, as much as the foreman needs to have the skill sets to run the job, and he needs to have these skill sets to get the job done in a timely manner, you know, we also have to put onus on the apprentice, right? It's like every time we hire, you know, Charlie, every time it's funny, like I'll sit in while Charlie's doing these interviews, and I'll sit in and I'll just wait for my turn. And I always tell the guy, I have a common line. It's like, if you've come here for a job, you know, you've come to the wrong place. You know, if you come here for a career, then you're in the right place, right? There's a huge difference between a job and a career. If you want to take this seriously, if you want to excel in construction, whether you're a plumber, an electrician, or whatever, it's up to you. It's up to you. If they're putting you in the environment and you feel like you're not getting, you know, the knowledge as fast enough, or, you know, you're in your fourth year, and, you know, again, I'll get back to plumbing. You're in your fourth year on, oh, I still, you know, haven't mastered soldering. It's like, man, I mastered soldering in my 8th month. You know what I mean? So it's like that's up to you. You know, because maybe the person doesn't have enough faith in you that he can leave you there. But if you're a ball breaker, if you keep breaking balls, why are you doing it like this? Just teach me. Oh, I don't got time. Fuck up. No, I want to learn. So that next time you can just leave me here and you don't got to worry about it. Trust me. You know, being a foreman once upon a time, I'd look at the guy and be like, okay, fuck, you know what? All right, do this like this. Let me see you. You know what I mean? Okay, go do this one. You know, and now all of a sudden, you know, that apprentice kind of, you know, built his own, you know, like he got the opportunity himself, right? Stop waiting for the opportunity. Go out and get it.
I agree. You guys are 100% right. The only thing, just to add before I want to switch topics here, but the reason why, so you and Charlie were the ball breakers, and you were that because
we still are.
Look where you are now, right? You know, you did it because you wanted to be the best, and so you wanted to learn, and you broke balls. But the reality is, the vast majority of people, they're clocking in, they're clocking out, they're getting their paycheck. There's a reason why you guys are like the 1% of people who own businesses and got to where you are. Like, no one has that drive, or most people don't have that drive to be the best. They're just trying to clock in, clock out, get paid, do what they have to do, and move on. You know,
Matteo, what do you think?
Yeah. So I've just been good to hear your perspectives, because I agree with you guys. I think, but Kosta, you make a very good point. Like, what about the majority of people who are stuck in this gridlock of being passive because their site super or foreman's being a dick, and it's hard for them to learn because they don't want to approach them, and it's not an easy environment to learn. It's like, I think I agree with you guys. I think it's up to the apprentice to make that move, but you also have to incentivize both sides to help the apprentice grow and learn. So like, what's in it for the foreman? Like you were saying, Johny, the apprentice needs to frame it as like, here, let me help you, and I can take more work off of your back. But it's also like, how is that measurable, right? Kosta, that's your point. And so, you know, to bring it into UBILD, because this actually plays in nicely, is what we do is at the end of every shift that someone works through the platform, workers can update their profile, and they can tell the AI basically what they learned that day or what they learned on that job. And so it's constantly updating. And so it's like, it helps them feel like they're making some progress, because they can then do these, we're building this out now where they can do these assessments. So they can do like a junior carpenter assessment, and adding in anything that they learn, they can keep retaking these assessments, and they can watch themselves kind of like level up in each different category. And so I think from the worker side, they need to be incentivized. I think the best way to be incentivized is to be able to tangibly see the skills that you're learning. And but Kosta, on your point, how do you make it measurable and tangible for the foreman to teach their crews skills? How do you make it? I'm not sure how you square that,
question,
but
right?
that's where you need to kind of make it.
Yeah.
No, but this is,
you want to hope that everyone's compassionate and they want to help other people grow. But like you said, the reality of it is that people have their whole life.
What solves this problem?
And all this.
What solves this problem is making it a requirement from the day you hire them, right?
Yeah,
and again,
exactly.
this is not a sell for you, Matteo. Like honestly speaking, like after like speaking about this for 15 minutes, to me, what makes the most sense is you're going to make this a requirement from day one, right? When you're looking for a candidate. Like, look, it's crucial that you have the skills that you're telling me you have, but also you have to pass that knowledge down. You have to take the time to teach these kids, right? And if that's not something you can do, you're not the guy for the job.
And just to get back on measuring, right? So as a foreman, if my apprentice is evolving, which is in turn making the job go better, making my life easier, putting more responsibility on them, where I can now focus on a lot more, let's just say, fine-tune items, right? So that's a measuring stick, because in the end of it, it happens with us all the time, right? We'll switch crews around, and then you'll start to see the foreman saying like, no, I want this guy, right? Well, why do you want him, right? And it's like, oh man, like this guy's, he's really leveled up, or like he's really improving, like he has what it takes, and it's like, oh, okay, so there's a measuring stick, because now you got foremans fighting over that guy to have them on their site. And then number two, on the apprentices side, it's like, this is where I always say the beauty of non-union. So the beauty of non-union is yes, like every year, you go from a first year to a second year, a second to a third year, and so on and so forth. Obviously there's race structures, right? But the beauty with us is like, well, when we're giving raises, yes, we're going to give you raises going into the next year. But if you're going into the next year and the skill set that you've, acquired within that time frame is not that much, you're getting a minimal raise. You understand what I'm saying? And that's why, like, we have like just, again, we have licensed plumbers that make absolute top dollar. And then we have licensed plumbers that make, let's just say a licensed plumber wage. And a lot of times, and I know inside companies, everybody talks, and they'll come, and they'll come to me or Charlie, and they'll say like, oh, why is this guy making more than me? And it's like, well, are you serious? And it's like, no, why? It's like, because number one, the guy takes on much more responsibility. Number two, just hypothetically, if we've allocated 10 days to do this, the guy's getting it done in 7, how much more of the list do you want me to go down? Right? It's not an entitlement to be here, right? Again, it's up to you to pose as much skill, right? And bring your skill to the job site every day, and that's how you're going to be incentivized, right? Nobody nowadays, few and far between, but nobody has a licensed plumber on site paying them $21 an hour. It just doesn't happen today. You know what I mean? So I think there is like you can tangibly measure on both sides, whether you're a foreman or whether you're an apprentice, right? But again, it gets down to like it's up to you, right? And again, I understand what you guys are saying. There's the 1% that will take it seriously and they'll go above and beyond and whatever. But for anybody listening, again, like UBILD, like Jobtable, we're trying to empower people. For anybody listening, guys, it's up to you. You know what I mean? It's up to you. Whether you're an apprentice listening, whether you're a foreman, whether you're licensed, it doesn't matter. It's a career. So the more and more you can evolve, the more and more that you can bring forth, whether you're the owner of your own company or whether you're working for somebody, trust me, man, that's just going to better you in the long run.
Yeah, 100%. One more topic here. Speaking on labor, hiring, some economic news that has come out recently regarding just layoffs happening. So if you see my screen here, these are just some of the companies over the last, I think, like 5 or 6 months in just announcing layoffs. So you got Amazon, 30,000 employees let go, Nestle, 16,000, 12,000 of which are white collar, Novo Nordisk, 9,000, Microsoft, 9,000, Intel, 5,000, Target. So like a lot of major companies have been laying off workers or their workforce. And, I think this is just, showing the state of the economy, where things are heading. Now, with that being said, Matteo, there's kind of no better person to provide some insight or a sense of the labor market than you. Like, you're literally in the business of helping companies hire and fill roles. So what have you been seeing on the ground, like on the construction side? Like, how has business been over the last 6 months? Are you noticing less or more hiring, or what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak too much to like the tech companies that are making layoffs. It's probably because of AI or economic downturn, what have you. But on our side, we're seeing a lot of union workers signing up on UBILD for non-union jobs. So these are some of the insights that we've seen is like you were saying, Johny, is like, for some reason, I guess the unions just don't have work for a number of different reasons. But yeah, in terms of the market, like we've been growing, so we haven't like seen like any kind of dips necessarily. What we have seen is companies that are kind of tightening up they're maybe not hiring as frequently through the platform. Like, they're trying to be more lean with the teams that they have. And they are looking for, people that are at lower rates, like, labor at a time, laborers could command quite high rates. And now it's not the case anymore because there's so much more of a supply of labor. So we're seeing labor rates coming down tangibly. But yeah, it's hard to say what it's going to look like in the future. But I'm curious to hear, what are you guys seeing at iPlum?
I wanted to add to that question to Kosta. Out of all the trades, right? Because obviously, again, you're probably the best guy to ask. Out of all the trades that you've seen on UBILD, which one do you see the labor rate come down the most, right? Because I have one in my mind, again, because I was just talking to somebody about this. It's a common friend of ours. I feel like a couple of years he was price gouging to literally everybody, and and it's the same guy now that's like begging for work, and he's asking for like 1/3 of what he was requesting a couple of years ago when things were booming. So getting back, I just wanted to piggyback off that question. Like, which one out of all the trades do you notice the biggest dip in that labor rate?
I'm seeing carpenters come down.
That's the exact same one. Yeah.
Really? Yeah. I've noticed that.
Yeah, that's the exact same one. Yeah, I had a guy again. I know I always give people a story or an example, but had a guy a couple of years ago, used to refer him everywhere, asked for, he was asking everybody. Like, I would even get calls from the people I refer, and it's like, dude, this guy's asking me for 150 an hour. I was like, what? You know what I mean? And now, he's calling me basically saying like, hey man, you know anybody building a house or anybody that needs framing? And I was like, well, man, like, I've referred you many times and didn't get the best feedback on your pricing, right? And he's like, oh, I'll, 45, 50 bucks an hour, whatever you can get me. And it's like, it's so funny, right? Because it's like, when the work is high, like, look, we all do it. If we're really busy, we all shoot kind of like, I don't want to say, fuck you pricing, but we all say like, look, man, I'm really busy. So if you want me to get to this job, I got to charge a little bit of a premium. But, some people were just I don't even know where they were pulling these numbers from. So yeah, Framer is definitely the one that I noticed has come down like significantly.
Yeah. All right, guys. I know we got a wrap here. There's a quick one here. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I know we're talking about like AI, voice calls, this and that. But there's, have you guys seen this Neo, a robot that's been making the rounds
Yeah.
that you can buy?
That's wild.
This is crazy, man. Like, imagine just this robot in your house that you can. It's like $500 a month that can do all this stuff here.
But like that, when I see that, I'm like, you know, how far are we from a robot like that cleaning a job site? Like I hate to say
Job
it,
site?
like cleaning
Yeah.
up, just moving
Yeah.
material. Like I
100%, yeah.
I really hate to say it because that's a bulk of our job postings. But it's like, what do? You have to, as an apprentice or as someone in the industry, you can no longer just be okay with being a general laborer. Like you need to, because I've met a lot of people, and especially on UBILD, is like they're happy with being really good at general labor, and they don't have big dreams to like grow. And I have no problem with it. I'm just saying, like in terms of job security, like you need to gain some type of skill that an AI humanoid robot
Yeah,
can't
these
do.
are coming.
I didn't think I'd be having this conversation now.
Just for
6
the
months ago,
record,
like,
just
it's
for the
crazy.
record, I'm completely against that robot you just showed. Like this is literally the beginning of the Terminator movie.
I think this
Yeah,
is going to be in
seriously.
like most houses in the next like 5 years.
We're gonna be on this podcast. You're gonna see one in the background of Kosta's house.
You might. I mean, I'm just cleaning my desk, bringing me a coffee. Anyways,
Listen,
It's unsettling for sure. It's I don't know. I don't like it.
yeah,
I always say we're the architects of our own demise.
yeah,
yeah.
100%.
All right, guys. I know we're way above the time here, but Matteo, thank you so much, man. We really appreciate it as always. We'll get you set up for round 3 very soon.
Yes, but before we go, Matteo, I'm putting you on the spot, man. What's the deal you're gonna offer to any listener? It's the end of the show. Give us a special discount that we could put in the footnotes for anybody looking to use UBILD for their hiring. Here's Matteo's special offer on the Deconstruction Podcast.
Yeah, for sure. So your first job on UBILD, you'll have a 2-week free trial. Use the discount code Jobtable, and we'll get you guys spun up.
That's
Beautiful, man.
And you can find it at ubuildapp.com, ubuildapp.com.
Beautiful. And we'll put this we'll put it in the footnotes as well.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Awesome.
All right,
Good
guys.
chat, guys.
And if you're a contractor looking to keep everything in one place without the headaches, go on jobtable.com, start a free trial, 14-day trial, and check it out. And as always, if you've enjoyed this episode, got any value from it, just subscribe so you don't miss any future conversations. I can help you build a stronger business. Until next time, boys, I will be in touch.
Thank you, boys.
Guys.
Take
Cheers.
care. Bye.